The Finance Minister is talking maybe growth 2% next year for the South African economy. What needs to happen for that to happen?
I think to a 2% and plus growth, investment has to flow and consumer confidence has to come back. On the investment side, this is a business sector that has to really take some tough decisions and come to the party. On the consumer side, it's a blend of interest rate cut. Monetary authority, I believe, has to come to the party, and it has no reason not to come to the party. Inflation is well under control. Consumer exuberance doesn't exist. If anything, we have consumer depression at the moment. So I'm hoping and I believe that this week will be the start of monetary policy easing, given that inflation is under control, given that the exchange rate has appreciated, which in effect is equivalent technically to interest rate rising in real terms. So if monetary authority cuts 2 interest rates, one this week and one possibly in 2 months' time, we could easily get growth of 2%, if not more.
And what other problems do you think, what other dragons do you think the South African economy needs to slay for it to pull itself out of this depression it's been suffering for the last few years?
Look, we need to get some of the policy uncertainties that President Ramaphosa has promised but hasn't done yet. The mining chart is still in the air, and the Minister of Minerals suggesting another 3 months. Now, every day that we delay the rejuvenation of the economy, the revival of the economy. We have to deal with the issues of water security, not just in the Western Cape and Eastern Cape, but countrywide, which means the water boards and the financing structures have to be credibly dealt with, not in the short-term basis, because those are the big potholes where has derailed the South African economy. Basic infrastructure. And of course, very importantly, and it's been a 20-year exercise, we have to get our skills, human resource development sorted out. We cannot go year after year, decade after decade, and have this pitiful state of education system. So we need to deal with these issues. The economy will rebound. The South African economy is a robust, diversified economy. It can rebound very quickly, provided we begin to deal with these issues. And everybody understands that the water, energy, skills is not a short-term solution. It's a decade-long solution. But we need to do the right thing and do it consistently so that credibility can return. And when credibility returns, confidence translates to investments, creates job and growth and the revival of the economy.
Now, you speak to a lot of foreign investors. What are they making of what's been happening here over the last few tumultuous months?
That's right. I think there is a cautious optimism, without a doubt. Everybody, at least outside South Africa, is surprised how quickly, between December and January, the page turned credibly. So there is a cautious optimism that we need to cash in on. Much like all other optimism, it doesn't last if you don't bank it. We need to, as South Africa, both in business and government, bank the positive optimism that the global capital market has granted us. We cannot squander, to put it very bluntly, we cannot squander for the sake of national welfare. We cannot squander Moody's reprieve or the gift that has been given to South Africa.
There's been a lot of talk about so-called complacency in business following this decision. What are you hearing?
I think complacency is not general. It's not generic. There are business people who are complacent, but the majority of people that I discuss with or talk to or listen to are real sector players, meaning in agriculture, in manufacturing, in mining, and they recognize that things have to be done differently. We do have legacy as well as present-day issues, structural issues, from poverty, unemployment, structural backlogs, etc., etc. And these cannot be washed away or ignored. We need to roll up our sleeves in business, in broader society, and very importantly in the government sector to deal with these issues. And if it takes 20 years to deal with them, we need to do it, and we need to be seen to be doing it properly, not just talk about it or throw chairs at each other.
And one issue we've discussed in depth on political capital is the question of the state-owned enterprises. The finance minister was talking this week about the possibility of partial privatisation, but surely economists like yourself would like to see the whole lot privatised sooner rather than later.
I think privatization can only make sense when these state-owned enterprises or companies are put back on the right value proposition. You now want to privatize SAA, you have to pay somebody to deal with it because they are so indebted. You want to sell ESCOM part thereof, again, you have to pay somebody to take them on because they've been destroyed. So privatization, in my view, at the moment is a little bit premature. We need to, yes, bring in sections of ESCOM, meaning most importantly on the generation side, technical partners who can speed up, who can bring efficiency, who can bring capability, who can add and revive ESCOM itself. Aspects of Transnet the same. But talking of privatization as if we're going to bank billions and billions and get efficiency going, forget it. Nobody is going to buy SAA when it's got 40% overstaffing, 35% over baseline cost in comparison with other successful airlines such as Ethiopian Airlines and so on and so forth. So we need to get these state-owned enterprises onto a comparable baseline in terms of cost, in terms of efficiency, in terms of productivity, and only then can we say who are the right partners for us.
So lastly, and overall, what kind of, shall we say, optimism do you think the people in the know in the market here in South Africa are sharing at the moment? And what would you say to the layman out there on the street who maybe has been very worried for the last few years?
I think the interesting thing is that average citizen, which is the same as business, you and I, we're just relieved that the nightmare of the past 8 years is behind us. We still don't know what's ahead of us. We hope that it will be better. And I think generally my impression is that across, certainly in the business community, there's a great deal of commitment to deal with some of these issues. And they are optimistic that under the presidency of Ramaphosa, with the new commitment to renewal of ethical governance, we will be able to do it.